And I was like so frustrated because I worked this afternoon for like 2 hours trying to get this one thing working, and it was not working, and it was just frustrating me. So I was like, forget it, like screw it, and I like didn't get anything done this afternoon. It was frustrating, but like I was working. There was a program out there that I was working with that was actually trying to get it where I was going to be able to do a live stream and have it go to Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook all at the same time. And if I had access to the stream key on TikTok, then I could actually do it with all four. But I don't have access to the stream key. There's only like a few people that have the TikTok stream key, like have that enabled for them. Whenever that happens, then I'll like go with that program, like for sure. And then my other laptop is not working, and so it's been a day, but it's good. So
someone asked, will it ever hit the narc later what he lost?
Say that one more time.
Will the narc ever realize what he lost?
Typically, no.
Yeah. I wanted you to answer that one.
Typically, no. Like the narcissist like knows that they lost control, and they're frustrated sometimes that control is lost. Like that aspect of it is lost. But typically, they're not out there being like, oh, like I lost the best person ever. Like that's not really something that they're really thinking of.
Well, and maybe you can confirm or deny this, but I've read that like narcissists and abusers in general, they tend to like depersonalize, objectify, and like dehumanize like their partners or people that they're close to. So it becomes like we're a lot easier to dispose of because we're not really seen as human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff is very like transactional in those regards, you know.
Right.
I'm almost up and running.
Oh, no, you're cool. You're good.
Yeah, no, I was asking you earlier if you wanted to go live because I'm trying to get everything set up as with this StreamYard stuff, and I think it's actually working. Right now it shows only have one person live right now, but or two people, I guess, on YouTube. Oh sweet, there we go. Got a comment. But yeah, so like I can actually do it now, like how Lee and I've been doing like our lives. I'm actually getting that up and running so that I can do lives with other people, and you can add like multiple people. I think it's up to like 3 people to the same live that goes live on right now YouTube, Facebook, and then I just added Twitter, even though I don't have a Twitter, but I set one up in like 30 seconds. So but those are like the 3 main ones that StreamYard can stream to. So I'm trying to do that to kind of get back into multiple stream feeds. I just don't have Instagram going because I couldn't find the stand for it. So, but yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, no, you're good. I love how into it you are. I know who to go to when I want to do better with all of my streaming.
Well, I'm excited, and hopefully down the road everything will work out with these other programs and stuff. So.
Yeah. Anyways. Let's see. Do you think there should be more education about narcissistic abuse in the workplace?
Yeah, and definitely like a really awesome person to follow about narcissistic abuse in the workplace would be Heather Coleman Voss. I think she's in there. There she is, right there. So if you want to learn more about narcissistic abuse in the workplace, like Heather is your go-to guru for that kind of stuff. So yes, Raw Motivations is in therapy. Yes, I am in therapy. So every single week, we go every Wednesday, 1 o'clock. It's awesome. Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it sucks, but it's fine. But yeah, that's good. Let's see. What do we got? I think I need some pep. So that's why I have like some Pepsi here. But let me open the other one. We just had pizza and garlic knots. So
nice.
Yeah. So let's see.
Why is it so hard to have an important conversation with a
narcissist? I mean, it depends on the conversation. Like a lot of times important conversations involve honesty, involve accountability, involve trust. And I mean, like all those are like anti-narcissistic. So like you can't really like have those things in a full conversation and expect the other person to lovingly commit to working together as a partner, to figure these things out. So a lot of times it's not easy to have like those hard conversations. It's not easy to have a serious conversation. Like majority of my life, like serious conversations that I had were like from behind a pillow. Like there was always like a barrier between me and someone else, or my barrier was just like humor or like something to be able to distract the other person from everything else that was going on, you know?
And I imagine too, a lot of these important conversations involve the narcissist changing their behavior, and that's like a big no-no. Like let's not talk about me. If you're gonna ask me to change, let's not go there.
Right. No, absolutely. So someone asked, can you co-parent? Is it possible, or am I just dreaming and putting myself through hell for no reason? So with co-parenting with a narcissist, it's a lot of times referred to more as like parallel parenting, because the idea of co-parenting isn't really going to work, because you're not going to have a narcissist that actually wants to work with you in parenting. Instead, they're more or less like, I don't know the right word, but they're almost like anti-parenting against you, like trying to pit the kids against you, trying to twist your words, the scenario, everything going on like that. So a lot of times it's more or less called like parallel parenting, where you're trying to do the best you can to be both parents to your kids and emotionally available and supportive to them, while the other parent is typically not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and as I was a child with a narcissistic parent, and there was like alienation. There was a lot of like lies about my dad. So I didn't even think to question it about my own father until I was almost 30 years old. I was like 28 when I finally asked my dad, like, oh, why did you leave? And I come to find out 28 years later in my life, very different story. Mm-hmm. So they do try to triangulate and put up barriers between you and the other parent. They definitely do try to get in the way of, they don't want to be parents together.
Right. For sure. Sorry, I'm still like, all right, let's see. Let's go, everybody. Are you always aware that you're doing the things from the heart, but it be a narc? A lot of narcissists are aware of like what they're doing. They're not aware like how to stop. They're not aware like what cycle they're in. They're not aware like how to break it, but they know like something's off, something's weird, something's wrong in one sense. How can I know for sure I'm not the problem and really the narcissist? I'm not the problem, really the narcissist. I mean, a lot of it comes down to like learning about yourself, learning about boundaries, learning about the other person, like really focusing on like, are you learning? Are you changing? Are you growing? And not are you changing for the other person, because like that could be just the empath getting manipulated, but like really like how are you growing to become the best person you can possibly be? A narcissist isn't going to be as self-reflective and isn't going to want to change at all.
Yeah, I was going to say the ability to want to take accountability, I think, is always a good indicator. If you can look at yourself and go, wow, I just mistreated this person, it doesn't feel good, mm-hmm. Then you, regardless of what the title is or isn't, then you have the ability in this very moment to go seek help or get new resources or new skill sets to work on it. So,
right. Yeah, one person here said, why so much unnecessary hate and anger? And a lot of times that is how the narcissist knows how to process things, because they haven't been developed fully with their emotions, with their mental capacity to be able to handle hard conversations, to be able to handle arguments, to be able to handle criticism. And so it's easiest to revert back to some of the basic ones, which is anger, which is rage. And they'll find themselves at that point. And even though they might be feeling at times other emotions like grief or shame or guilt or vulnerability, a lot of times they'll twist it around and it'll come out hate and anger, for sure.
Yeah, I also think anger a lot of times is an intimidation tactic or tool as well.
Yeah. Have you found as a narcissist you eventually get found out?
You just let me
know. Okay. Have you found as a narcissist you eventually get found out? I mean, typically a lot of stuff comes out no matter what. So I think like it doesn't matter if you're a narcissist or not, like the truth will eventually come out. And the majority of the time it happens. A lot of times with the narcissist it comes out because a lot of them lie really stupidly. Like a lot of them are pretty dumb when it comes to lying. And other ones, you know, just get caught. Like it's kind of crazy sometimes, but the truth typically comes out. I'm gonna see if I can like go to do not disturb real quick without jumping off. All right, there we go. I have to like pull it down really quick, otherwise it kicks me out of the live. Please let's talk about how or even one co-parents with a narcissist. When is it okay to cut off parenting time from an abusive narc? So like if the narcissist is being abusive, especially like physically, emotionally abusive, like especially in the physically abusive side and like the parenting side, a lot of that can go through court system like pretty quickly, where you can get supervised visits, where you can get no access, where you can get like sole custody. Those things are really great. Sometimes it might be a little bit harder to prove, but you can get like access to, having supervised visits and things like that. But really just like co-parenting with a narc, the co-parenting itself just doesn't work the majority of times with a narcissist. But parallel parenting, where they're kind of doing their own thing and you're working on the other side to, in one sense, counteract what they're doing, to counteract and be able to show the kids, hey, like this is how to deal with your emotions, like this is how to deal with shame, this is how to deal with vulnerability, and like being there for them emotionally is one of the biggest ways you can help your kids.
This is a good question. When do you think you started showing narcissistic traits age-wise?
I want to say like 9 would be kind of like my guess. I don't even remember all of it, but I do remember there was a time that we were at like camp and my cousin was with us and she was supposed to be like babysitting me that day. And I wanted to go do something at like the camp, and like she said no, or like my parents said no, or whatever. And I didn't really like care, so like I waited till like she was like in the other room. I like closed and locked the door and like climbed out the window and then went and did what I did wanted to do anyways. And like came back and like had to like apologize or whatever, just to like get through the moment. But like it wasn't like I really like cared, like I did what I wanted. I mean, that's like a small example. I don't remember like how everything like went down, but I do remember like there was like a lot of like confusion and like I think like lying and like trying to manipulate the story like when I got back, of like, oh well she didn't say this, or oh this, but I don't really remember a ton of it. I do remember us all talking about it and I remember that being a part of like everything that happened, but I don't, at this moment I can't recall everything of it.
Sure.
Gotta figure out how I can move this. It's like in the way, but there's not. Okay, there we go.
What is key in a narcissist becoming self-aware and beginning elevating themselves?
I didn't see that one.
It's Sophie Kate.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
What is key in a narcissist becoming self-aware and beginning elevating themselves? Elevating, I guess, like getting better, because like they're already pretty high up there on themselves already. But as far as like key in a narcissist getting self-aware is to stop lying. I mean, that's really like number one thing for a narcissist. But the problem is they're not going to, because like admitting that they're wrong, admitting like actually like telling the truth about a situation, then they have to admit who they actually are and like what's actually going on.
Well, and I mean, in your case, right, you had to get curious about yourself and
Right.
take the initiative yourself.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Let's see. Where'd it go? There we go. I'm no contact for months now. He hoovered me 4 times and stalked my social media 4 months. It's so hard for me to accept everything I'm learning on Narcissist was exactly him. Yeah. I think a lot of times there's like a disconnect with a lot of people that don't want to believe who they were with, that don't want to believe the narcissist, that don't want to believe like what actually happened. And then there's a whole group of people in one sense that they like see what happens and then they're kind of think like, what was wrong with me, like why didn't this happen? And a lot of times the storyline for a lot of people like ends up being very like lack of better words, I guess, like self-centered of like everything that happened with the narcissist, like it must have been me. It must have been something I did. When in fact, like it has like nothing to do with you and nothing to do with anything you did. It's all about them. It's always been about them. But sometimes when people get in those relationships and the love and all that stuff gets misconstrued in that type of relationship, they start thinking like, oh, like they were in love with me, when in reality, like they weren't. They were in love with themselves, in love with the control. Have you had someone go no contact, and what was your response? No, it was like awful. Like I had one person that went no contact, ghosted me, and it was like absolutely awful. Like I hated it. There was that lack of control. There was me. I didn't have any like closure. Wasn't able to, talk to them, anything like that. They cut it off, and they did it really well. They cut it off and ghosted. That's why I tell people to do that, because it's very effective, and it's very effective for the narc as well. Why is my ex-narc, who I co-parent with, still trying to do nice things for me? A lot of times that's a Hoover. A lot of times that's a way to try to look better in front of other people, because they want to appear like they have the good image. They want to appear like everything is good. A narcissist want to be in control, and they want to be in control of their image. It's hard to come to terms that he no longer exists. Yeah, no longer exists. Like the idea of losing the narc, the idea of like walking away from the narc is the idea of like you look back and you're like, hey, I am mourning the death of a person that is still alive. Like I'm mourning the death of a person who never existed. And a lot of times people struggle with that concept, and they struggle with that idea of, hey, who I knew at the very beginning was not real. And so I'm trying to get back to that idea of like, I want to go back to this person. I want to go back to how it was. The thing is, how it was never actually was. It was just a facade for the moment.
There's a question over here that I also want answered. Can I ask it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are any moments real to them? Happy times, love, personal talks?
Well, you have to think like the majority of the stuff like that is all switched around. And so like real for them is different as far as like real for you. So like, was their love real? Okay. Well, like for a lot of people, like they ask like about like the idea of love and things like that, when in reality, like a narcissist really can't fully love somebody, because they're not even letting themselves be fully known in the relationship. And so like love for me was like how much I loved you was like how much love I got back. And that's why I've done like videos. I had like one that went like kind of viral for a little bit, when I was like, okay, you want to trip up a narcissist, like ask them like how, like why did they love you? Like, what's the reasoning behind it? And a lot of times they don't have a good reason. Well, I love you because you love me. I love you because of what you do for me. Like, it's very self-centered. And so those like real moments that people want to cling on to and like hold on to, oftentimes are just, a facade or like hope of something that wasn't actually there. So a lot of times I would say the majority of those moments aren't real to the same extent that they are for the other person.
Sure.
I'm gonna get my mat.
I was thinking about it. It's kind of your love, like right, the narcissist version of love is truly conditional, right? And for some of us, for me, with my mom, because everything was conditional, she only was kind to me when she could get something from me. For me, at a certain point, I went, well, that's not my definition of love, and I no longer participate in a relationship where that's the kind of love that I'd be receiving.
Yeah. Someone said, oh, this is going back to co-parenting. My narc has supervised visits with our son, but will only agree to me being the supervisor rather than the therapist. Help me understand the motive behind that. I do not want to supervise. It doesn't work for our son. Yes, and it shouldn't work, because all that is manipulation and control. So he's manipulating it into a situation where he's going to be communicating with you, not your son. You might be a supervisor. You might be supervising the visit, but it's all going to be about you. It's all going to be about communicating to your son in order to control you, communicating to your son to get a reaction out of you, and on and on. If there's going to be supervised visits, then it needs to be with a neutral third party, and it cannot be with you. How to overcome a cycle of stuckness. It's a good one. How to overcome a cycle of stuckness as a narcissist or as someone who is with a narcissist. So a lot of times, like with someone who's with a narcissist, they'll be like, "Oh, I only attract narcissists." And Lee and I were talking about this the other day. Like, yes, it's an aspect of you attract narcissists, but it might also be that you're going after people that you want to be able to help or that you want to be able to fix. In reality, like you need to be looking for someone who is already like working on themselves and is not a build a man or a build a woman. Like it's not someone that you're coming in to be able to put them together. It's someone that you're coming in with mutual respect, mutual honor, mutual love to be able to work through stuff together. And a lot of times I see people that get stuck in a cycle typically haven't done a lot of the work on themselves. Because it's amazing how many times I'm talking to people in one-on-ones and we're working through breaking out the trauma bond. We're working through someone getting better. We're working through someone healing and growing. And, if we do like multiple coaching sessions, it'll be like the first couple of times we're like breaking the trauma bond, we're rewiring the mind and getting us like back on track. And then we get to a place where we're having to work through like them. And that's what's kind of interesting is like sometimes people come in, they expect like, hey, we're only going to talk about the narcissist. Well, we can do that to a point, but then we have to stop talking about them and start focusing on you. Like, what's your growth? What's your healing? How are we going to continue this long term to be able to heal you from the triggers, to be able to heal you from the setbacks that's going to keep popping up in your life every single day? Let's see. What was the other one that popped up? Why did the narcissist say that his parents treated him horribly as a child, but now in his 30s he has relations with them? I mean, there's two aspects. One, that could be true, and one that could be a complete lie. So you never really know with a narcissist. And then the second thing is like that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for later on and down in life people to still be connected to people that maybe abused them or people that treated them really, really awful. Sometimes that's because maybe the parents have done the work and they've started to heal, they've started to repent for it. Other times it just gets swept under the rug and maybe they're narcissistic as well. The past is a past and they never come back to it and they just try to move on. So it's a good question though. What's all this side chatting going on? Trying to see what's going on here. Okay. How does the narc feel about their abusive parents that cause? Okay, there's another question about their abusive parents that cause the trauma. I think a lot of narcissists don't track back to their behaviors as being a direct result of how they're raised. I think sometimes they might identify like, hey, there was abuse or hey, there was like an issue in the family or like I had a rough childhood, but not necessarily something that is making me be the way I am today. A lot of times it's more along the lines of like, no, I'm the way I am today and I'm pretty awesome. So like, why would, it normally doesn't link back to that as far as what I would see. Can't read that. It's in Spanish. Sorry. Mine's in complete denial about his childhood, family upbringing. Yeah, a lot of times they're in complete denial of everything that's going on, for sure. There's a question for you.
What?
Someone asked. Beautiful disaster. Anna asked if your hubby was a narcissist.
If mine was?
Yeah.
No, he was raised by one. He was raised by one, and I would say he has higher traits, but no, he is not. A pain in the ass, though. Yes.
That's hilarious. But like some of your background was upbringing of a narcissist, right?
Yeah. So my mom was a narcissist, and then my stepdad came in later in my life. I don't know if he was a narcissist, but he had very high traits himself. And then the two of them were both abusive. Mm-hmm. Then I got into toxic relationships. One I believe was a narcissist, or at least highly narcissistic. So yeah.
Right.
It's been fun. It's been a good ride.
Right. The narc said, just want you to note the huge effort I'm making. Done something bad, will do other I mean, a lot of times a narcissist wants to be validated, and they normally want to be validated for nothing. Like they normally want to be validated, like, didn't you notice I like threw away the napkin? Like I'm such an amazing husband, you know. When like in reality, like no, like you can't even like stay faithful. So like, why the fuck do you want me to like be like, oh, you're such a good person, you know? Because like that's really what it comes down to. Like a lot of times, a narcissist is like fishing for comments in so many different areas, so many like compliments when in reality like no, like you're not even doing like bare minimum. How does gray rock come across to a narcissist? So like gray rock comes across to a narcissist in two different ways. One, it either comes across as you're throwing down the gauntlet and let's fight even more and I'm going to get you to react, or I'm going to get disinterested and I'm going to leave. So I think from my perspective, there's a lot of misconceptions on Narc Talk about gray rocking being the end all be all, which it's not. From what I've seen, gray rocking is works like 50% of the time. You have to go into gray rocking already knowing your narcissist, already knowing your abuser, because you already have at least a baseline of, hey, when I haven't reacted before, he's like walked away. Or when I haven't reacted before, he's like raged at me more. So you have to be really careful because otherwise people will be like, oh, just gray rock. And some people have been put in really dangerous situations by gray rocking. So it's not something I just recommend to everybody. But yeah. Let's see. What else we got? Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes, Anna. Yes, that is my husband's username, by the way.
Oh, gotcha. Really? That's funny.
Yeah.
What to say to people that say not everyone is a narc, you were just in a bad relationship. I mean, you know the relationship you were in. Like don't try to don't wait on having people validate your abusive relationship that you had to endure, because a lot of people don't, you know. A lot of like family members, a lot of friends have like no clue like what you're going through. And the thing is, like, if you're on here and you've either been in an abusive relationship or you know someone that's been in an abusive relationship, you probably need to give them more grace and more validation than what you've given them, because a lot of people don't understand the mind craziness that goes on, like the fog, the narcissistic fog that gets put on the other person, and that really like screws them up. And a lot of times people need to have a lot of grace in that area. But yeah, let's see. Why is social media a huge part of a narc's life? Typically, social media is a huge part of a narcissist's life in attempts to get more supply, to get more people. But the interesting thing is there's probably a decent amount of people on here or that are watching some of this stuff that has been like, oh, like my narcissist like didn't like social media, like they didn't have social media, or like they, you know, they didn't have me on social media. Like that's another popular one, and some people like justify it. Like they think like that's normal. Okay, well, let me tell you right now, that's not. Okay, what that is like if I'm a narcissist and we're together, then my goal is I got to keep you off my page. I got to keep you untagged. I keep you disengaged from a relationship status. That way I can appear single to the rest of the world. And the majority of people that say, oh, that's not true, are typically the ones that are getting fooled by it. Like it literally is ridiculous. I've had people be like, you know, my narcissist isn't even on social media. And then they find the second phone. You know, like it happens so much. Like, are there narcissists out there that are not on social media? Like, yes. Okay. Like, I'm not going to say like it's a blanket statement for everybody out there, but there is a lot of narcissists that use social media to their benefit to be able to get more supply, to be able to get, to be able to like make connections and try to like get with people. Like, that's really like what a lot of them do. Um, Someone just said, where does it go? I just learned. Whoop, no, there we go. I just learned about a collapsing narc. How do I survive this and not feel guilty? I don't have a ton of information on the collapsing narc. I have seen and heard some stories of narcs completely collapsing, like just going like, I mean, completely bonkers in one sense, but like just going to a place where they stop taking care of themselves. Like it literally like goes completely like crazy in one sense. But like I don't have a ton of info on that. I'm not the best person to respond to that. That's something I probably need to research. But what do they say? How do I once and for all get an answer, good or bad, about his porn and cheating habits? I mean, you're probably not going to get an answer from him if there's cheating habits, and if there's lying, you're probably not going to get an answer. You know, you might have to be the sleuth and kind of figure out some stuff like on your own, but you're not going to get a good answer from the narcissist because they're not going to want to be honest about it. Like if you're at the place where you're saying like his porn and cheating habits, that's probably answer enough, and you probably need to set those boundaries and make your exit strategy. All right. Getting all the big wigs on here. Gosh. Interpret narc saying we need no contact, insinuating they're the one, and then inviting to dinner with best friend. I need like a little bit more context with that. Sorry, I'm trying to figure that out. Scared to ask, but do narcs always cheat? Mine is covert, I suspect, but no proof. I typically say that narcs pretty much always cheat. Like people don't like it when I say always, every single narc ever, but if it was up to me, I'd say all narcs cheat. It just depends on like how they cheat. Like they're either going to cheat with another person, they're either going to cheat with an emotional affair, they'll cheat with the same gender. Like it doesn't really matter. Like they'll typically find a way to cheat, or they'll find a way to cheat as far as like taking away time from you and focusing all their time on themselves or their work or whatever it is. They'll always find something to place higher than you after they've already put you on the pedestal and knocked you off it. Why does the narc think I'm the narcissist? It's easier to blame you to be the narcissist than it is for them to admit that they are. If it's not too personal, what does the narc feel when unplanned? Oh, okay. When unplanned baby is born, normal or sad feelings. Typically, at least in my regards, like when the baby is born, it's not necessarily like this huge emotion. It's not necessarily this huge like, oh my gosh, I love this baby. Like it's not a huge like emotional tie because narcs aren't like super emotional, like empathetic wise, to be able to like connect with someone like that. So it's kind of like that happened. Like okay, like it's not a huge like emotional happening, I guess would be the best way to say it. Why do you still miss him? Okay, you still miss the narcissist typically because you're involved in a trauma bond, and that's built on abuse, and that's built on hope, and that's built on cognitive dissonance of him saying, that he loves you, and then he shows you the exact opposite, and back and forth. Oh, I just like paused on the live. There we go.
I can stand for a few more minutes, but it's getting close to my bedtime. So.
Yeah, you're good. Oh, okay. Here's someone. Can you relink the apps that made your email appear to be disabled and spam number blocker you mentioned on another video that was like $40 a year? The spam blocker that I know that I mentioned is called I think it's Robo Blocker. And the app do not have that one. It's like app blocker dot something. I'm running off one computer right now because my Mac went to update and is not finished updating, and I'm worried that it's like stuck and I have to like take it in because it's not actually going through. So all those links and stuff are on that and on my phone, so I can't really access that because I'm on my phone right now. Yeah. Let's see. Here we go. All right, I'll throw it in the chat here in just a minute. I'm getting my WhatsApp up, and then I can find my text to Bree because that's the one place I know that it's in WhatsApp. So, all right.
I was gonna say, I'm really sorry if I wasn't on my phone either.
No, you're good. I'll find it here, and I'll get it in both the chats here. Do narcissists do no contact and try to expose you after you leave them as a manipulation tactic. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like they'll go no contact and try to make you to be the bad guy. Like you're detrimental for the kids. Like you're detrimental for like everything that's going on. Like you're the bad person. Like like there's one that there's a one-on-one that I talked to a couple weeks ago where they did that and they actually like got the victim like arrested, like a bunch of stuff that was going on. It was like really really crazy. Do narcissists cry? Some narcissists do. I think a common misconception is narcissists never cry. I mean, I pretty much didn't, but that doesn't mean all of them don't. A lot of narcissists will cry in a way to manipulate and to control. If they can manipulate your empathy, they can control your reaction.
Yeah, my mom would turn off and turn on tears like a light switch.
Hmm. Oh, here's a good question. Could polygamy solve the supply needs for narcissists or likewise any open relationship? The answer is no. It'll never fill the void. And this is not just me talking. This is me talking from talking to people and one-on-ones that they've got to the place where the narcissist has pushed them to have a threesome or pushed them to be in a polygamous relationship. And it never works because of the fact that it's not going to fill the void that the narcissist has. My WhatsApp is not loading, but I'll get it in the chat here in a little bit.
Is the only way they can get better is if they are self-aware.
As opposed to,
I'm not sure.
I mean, if they're not self-aware, then there's really nothing to be aware of to change.
Yeah, there's no medication or anything like that that's just going to magically change that.
Can you find your way to a new destination without knowing where you are on the map? I mean, that's really what it is. Like there's not an option. There's not an option to get to where you're going unless you can be honest of where you are. And that's what a lot of people in general don't like to do. Not just like a narcissist, but just humans in general, a lot of times don't like to take an accurate look at where they are, because a lot of times there's shame, there's vulnerability, and there's just like the aspect of like, crap, like I'm not where I want to be. And that can promote a lot of like negative talk, or just in anybody's mind, like negative talk of like, I'm not where I should be. Like, this sucks. Like I should be so much farther in my life, instead of like focusing on that, focusing on like, what's the dream, what's the goal, what's the vision that we need to go to, and having that drive you versus where you are. But it helps to know where you are so you have a way to be able to move in the right direction.
I have to go.
All right. Yeah, have a good night.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
Yeah, we'll plan one sometime, and I'll get you on the stream key so that you can actually be like on the same page, and we'll go live on Facebook and YouTube as well.
Cool, that's awesome.
Cool.
I love that.
Sounds good.
Have a
See
good
ya.
night.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right. Where we at? My narc is only nice when they have just done something wrong. Yeah, a lot of times a narcissist will be nice after something happens, and it might not be even something that you know about. It just might be the fact that like something happened. You have no clue that they just cheated on you. They have no clue, but they feel that guilt. They feel that slight bit of shame. So like even like love bombing, even if you don't have an idea, it's kind of crazy. There's sometimes that people are like, oh, like we had all these plans and these trips, and like we're gonna go do this, we're gonna go do this, and like I remember asking someone on one-on-one, I was like, when did you plan those? And they were like, yeah. Like we planned them right after a big fight, because it's the idea is you have to distract, you have to get them looking towards the future so they stop viewing how you abused them in the past. Do they ever tell the truth about anything? Typically not, because after a while lying becomes such a habit, such a consistency, it's almost like ingrained into it. That's for sure. Mine discarded me and moved 3 weeks ago. He wants no contact and is so rude. Don't want to talk. Yeah, a lot of times the narcissist will do that. Do they ever feel bad for hurting their victims? No, they typically feel bad for like losing control of their victims. Narc suggesting no contact and then invite me to dinner with a new boyfriend during no contact. Projection, triangulation. Yeah, no, I definitely see triangulation there for sure. A lot of times that's that cognitive dissonance of I don't want you, but like be in my life, or just the idea of like, you know, hey, we shouldn't be together, and then they still reach out, like it kind of messes with your mind a little bit and can get you to the place of where they're going to have their cake and eat it too, like still keep you around in one sense. Is jail time normal? She gets in trouble with the law all the time. uh I would say, like, typically, not always. A lot of narcissists don't like boundaries, period. So they normally try to avoid it as best as possible, or they just break the boundaries because they don't really care. Let me see if I can find those links. It's finally loading here. Mine steals financially. Where'd it go? Ah, Mine steals financially and believes his own lies. Yes, 100%. A lot of narcissists take advantage of you financially. Like, if anybody's ever seen like The Tinder Swindler, it's on Netflix. It's a really good watch because it shows you real life stuff that happens of narcissists taking people for their money. And it happens like all the time. Like, I talk to people in one-on-ones, and we're talking like thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that people have lost to a narcissist that they're never going to get back. It's really crazy. A lot of nurses are freeloaders. Why do I still feel scared of him? It's 2 years. Yeah, I mean, making sure you set up good boundaries that there's not a way for them to get back. Like, you have to be careful. Threatened divorce for 2 years. I filed, and now I'm the bad guy that wants this and keeps texting. Yeah. So like that's like the big thing is they want to look like you're the bad guy, not them. That way they can keep their image, they can keep their control. Do narcs ever not have sex with old exes they keep around? It's not really good question to answer in one sense. I'm not really sure. I know most narcissists, when they're back with old exes, it's back fully. It's not just, oh, we're just friends. Together 10 years, he said he hadn't loved or cared for me in 3 years. How? That's like that disconnect. Like that's the aspect of, hey, I don't want to be with this person. Like, I'm not getting what I want, like blah blah blah. And they just move on. And they disconnect really quickly. The sociopath got us into $100,000 debt, most of it in his hobbies and expensive clothes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, yeah. First time I felt safe was when my narc mom didn't know my home address. Yeah, that's very true. Do they love their kids, or are they just an accessory? Typically, the kids are just a means to an end. Like, how do they make the narcissist feel? Like, how do they end up like helping their image? Like, that's typically like the lines of the kids in that relationship. Um, Trying to see what we got here. Cryptocurrency, yeah. No, yeah, that's true. I made a lot and lost a lot in cryptocurrency. My dad never talked to me siblings till we got a good career. Yeah, almost like the validation that comes with that is like crazy. Do they ever stop cheating? Once they start, it's very difficult for them to stop. So typically they don't. Typically they don't. Um, What's this one? I feel guilty about my narc husband being extra nice lately. He's been a cheater over 17 years of our marriage, and I just can't trust him. How do I stop feeling guilty? Well, I mean, you shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't be feel guilty for doubting him or for questioning him or for wondering, because, like, for all you know, he's just being nice to you so he can keep cheating on you. Like, especially if you're saying a serial, can I say that? Serial cheater for over 17 years, like, there's some big deep issues and huge wounds there that need a lot of work to be able to bring back any form of trust. Any form of trust. There you go. What will my narc ex think if I blocked completely and never speak to him again when I always used to answer? No, a lot of times they get really frustrated and it's annoying for them because they've just lost control. This is how you win with a narcissist. You take away their control. You make it so that there's no way for them to contact you, for there's no way for them to find you, for there's no way possible. You take away their control, you take away their power, and you transfer it to yourself. I get it, but I'm so stuck 3 months of no contact, but I miss him every day. So typically when you're missing a narcissist, this is the idea of a trauma bond. You're missing someone that's abused you. You're missing someone who's manipulated you. You're missing someone who's gaslight, cheated, lied on you, all these type of stuff. And you're typically missing this person. The reason why a lot of times you're missing this person is from that trauma bond, from that cognitive dissonance that they put you through. And figuring out how to stop missing them is going back to reality and is going back to the facts of the situation. Because a lot of times you're missing them based on hope, based on FOMO, based on the idea of like, what if I did something different? What if this happened? And it's not actually getting to a place of reality of, hey, this is what's actually going on. And that's what I work with people in one-on-ones on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times is breaking the trauma bonds, like working through this type of stuff where they can find healing and they can get to the place where they realize like, hey, what I was in was an abusive relationship. Now that I'm out, I can start taking back my power and start living the best life that I can possibly live. So real quick, I want to put in a quick plug. We have coming up on April 6th. I know you've probably heard it if you've seen some of the lives, a couple of things going on. We've got an awesome webinar coming up with 6 different creators that are on it. Myself, Lee, Mental Healness, Stronger Than Before, Kelly, Lady Loveless, like a bunch of creators are going to be on this. It's going to be super exciting. Like go to my link in the bio and grab a ticket to be able to come see. But the webinar is about identifying and overcoming narcissistic abuse. It's going to be pretty awesome. All right. You send the link for the email one. It's weird. All right, I'm gonna put the link for the email one here in just a minute. Okay, yeah, if you want to do a one-on-one sometimes, right now they're filling up. It's actually been kind of crazy. I've had more and more people get like the coaching packages. But right now, if you want to do a one-on-one, just go to my website, rawmotivations.com. That's where you can schedule stuff for like one-on-ones. There's been a couple people that have been asking to talk to my wife, and they've been asking, you know, to interact with her about her healing journey and what she's like gone through, what she's trying to figure out how to do. So there is a new link that I just put up on the website as well, where people can actually grab a time and try to be able to talk to her as well. So that's an option. Hey, how are you?
Hi. That's so awesome that your wife is doing that. Because when I was in that situation, I really wanted to talk to Lee's wife. Like I was like desperate to figure out like how you stay in the relationship with a narcissist. I didn't want to leave. Heather was one of my helpers. Kelly was one of my helpers, but like I was stuck.
Right.
I was stuck. I've been watching this whole thing and I'm like, I've got so much to say.
Well, the thing is, my wife will be the first one to tell you that, like, if you're not seeing change, to not stay at all. You know, that's definitely like a big part of her story. Like, she's not. That's one thing that I know for sure. Like going into like one-on-ones is she's not going to tell anybody to stay. That's for sure.
What's the difference between you and Lee and him? Is both of you were self-aware enough to go get therapy, and he refused therapy. There was nothing wrong with him.
Guys, I just dropped the email blocker link into the chat on TikTok, and I have it on the screen on YouTube. I just want to let people know that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. He was not shocked when I brought up the term. And when I was listening to people like Lee, like right in front of him, he was never shocked. I remember the one time he came up and asked me, well, how do you know if you're a narcissist? And we took this quiz on Psych Central, and it came up moderate narcissism for him. And I answered everything to the best of my ability, because at the time I was following Sam, and she says there's a spectrum. Everybody has narcissistic traits. And so I took the test. I answered everything honestly. I thought I would get something, and it came up like 0, and his came up as moderate. And I was just like, oh, I had a good laugh about it, but that was how he got me to kind of, I don't know, that was part of the hoovering before I left. Right. So it was really interesting. But the difference between you, Lee, and him, you will go to therapy. You're working on it. You're working on it to try to not hurt your spouse as much. And that's huge. It's amazing. And I'm going to let everybody out there know who's following you and watching this. That's rare. That is so rare. So if you expect that and they keep telling you they will, and even if they go to therapy and the therapist tells them, hey, do this, this, and this, and then by the next week they haven't, that's your pattern. They might go to therapy and use therapy to hurt you more. That's what happened to me.
Right.
He went to therapy, so I'm sure he can, in his smear campaign, he can be like, well, I went to therapy.
Right.
He did, but he never took the advice of any of them.
I lost your audio. Maybe that's just me.
A different place than we were. What we...
Oh, there you go. Nope. Are you there?
Yeah.
There we go. It like lagged or something.
I tried to plug it in.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, like a lot of times I tell people, like, I never counsel people to go to therapy with their narcissist, because like it literally is a playground for them. Like going to therapy like with a narcissist is like the idea of like, hey, here's a bunch of ammo for you to go back and you abuse your partner, because a lot of therapists don't identify it. A lot of therapists like don't like actually acknowledge like what's going on, and a lot of times they're like, oh well, you need to like love better, it's a communication issue, like all this type of stuff. And the narcissist like comes back home and like, ha, see, like it's you, like the reason why I'm this way is because of you, and the therapist said it in like a minuscule comment, but like they'll take anything and everything.
And that's the thing, if the therapist didn't even say it. So we had done about 5 sessions with my personal therapist who I had prior to the marriage. And he kept sending me information on like narcissism. And I was like, he's not a narcissist. But then those 5 sessions, if he didn't like what she had to say, he got up and just walked out of the room, because this is during COVID time, or just prior to COVID time, but with video. He would just get up and walk out and leave. And then he would come back like 30 minutes later when the session was almost over, apologize for leaving and say he would work on that for the next time. But it happened every single time. So I finally got to the point where I thought, well, maybe it's because she's a female, she's young, he just doesn't trust her. I don't know. All these thoughts in my head were going on. So I'm going to get a male therapist. He can pick them. I need a male therapist, somebody older, somebody he might respect or listen to. So we got a male therapist, but this was before I knew I had to find somebody who specialized in cluster B personality disorders.
Right.
So this person really didn't know much about the situation, but just kept saying, you need to get a divorce. You should probably get divorced. But at the end of those 12 weeks, he was like, nothing's changed. Everything I've asked him to do, he hasn't done it. And that was the problem. But the very first session with that man, we left and he goes, he thinks you're an alcoholic. I'm like, he didn't say that, but he was trying to turn me against the therapist right away. And I remember telling my personal therapist about that situation, and she goes, no, write this down. And when you go back, you ask him, was he trying to say this? And so I did. And he was like, no, I didn't have that. That was not my feeling at all. And it totally just like, knocked him off whatever plan he was trying to do.
Right.
So, yeah, they will use therapy to abuse you.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like my wife and I started going to couples therapy like almost 6 months ago. And this is after her doing like a year and a half or so, maybe closer to 2 years, year and a half at least, of her own therapy, me being close to like a year of my own therapy before we actually decided to go together. And I think I saw a comment that I was going to respond to along the lines of like the reason why people go to couples therapy is because they want to work on the marriage. And like, you have to understand, like, the narcissist doesn't want to work on the marriage. If they did, then they'd stop lying. If they did, then they stop cheating. If they did, they stop abusing you. And people go into couples therapy thinking like, oh, like we're two people that's broken that needs to get fixed. And in reality, like, no, like you're probably like a strong, confident person that you've been ripped apart and torn down. And the narcissist is looking for more ammo to be able to do that more and get you under control.
Everything that he said he loved about me before we got together, because I think you mentioned that earlier, or Bree mentioned that earlier, somebody did. about why they love you. Like if you were to ask them, they love you. Everything that he said he loved about me are the things that he tore apart.
Right.
Tore apart. It was still the shell of a person. Like, I mean, there was Heather knows. Heather knows. There was almost nothing left of me. I was like desperate for help and answers, and I felt guilty about wanting to leave the marriage, even though I tried to leave twice before. I felt guilty about giving up on something I committed to, and it was a struggle for me. So the way that they do that is to make you question everything, right? So I was questioning everything. Am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? But he made me feel horrible about it all.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
I didn't feel like myself anymore. I am almost 9 months out. Today was the realization that it's been almost 9 months. I've only counted in days.
Okay.
And today was the realization that it was almost 9 months. And I'm like, wow, 9 months is almost a year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And I've had no contact. I had a little contact right after I left regarding the annulment process. But other than that, I mean, that was like 5 text messages.
Right.
And the time, this is what I wanted to share in here that I haven't shared. I haven't shared TikTok. I was afraid.
Okay.
And it was something else. So when I left and I went no contact, and I was like, I'm safe. Everybody was telling me to file a restraining order, and I'm like, I'm safe. I'm fine. He doesn't know where I'm at. He tried to file one against me. This is that post-separation abuse. And everything he outlined in there was the reactive abuse situations. And of course, he didn't lead up to that in those descriptions. Right. But you done that, right? You're just going to take what I did and put it out there. But you didn't lead up to why I did what I did.
Right. I mean, that's why you'll see a lot of narcissists that they'll like record, you know?
I recorded because he kept telling me I was forgetting.
Right.
He was like, you're remembering it right. I was gaslit so much that I started recording. I even ordered this Apple Watch that I have. I ordered for myself on Mother's Day. I didn't get a Mother's Day gift. This was my Mother's Day gift to myself. And that is what I used recording because he was like, you're not remembering it right. That's not what happened. And I really was questioning that. Yeah. So I started recording conversations, and then it turned out, wait, no, I am remembering it right. This is what he's saying, and it's not true.
Yeah, because they'll make you feel crazy. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And like what I've seen a lot of times is, especially in reactive abuse, like the narcissist will push you to the edge till you react. Then they'll sit there calmly and pull out their phone and start recording you. That way they can use that later to make you look like the crazy one.
Right. So when I hear that, I get nervous. I'm like, did I do that? Am I the narcissist? Because I feel like that's what I did.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between like recording to keep your sanity and recording to make someone else look bad.
No, it was purely to keep my sanity.
Right.
I had
absolutely.
No any of those things on social media. I never intended to share with anybody else. That was for me because he kept saying, you're not remembering it right. No, that's not what happened. You had 2 the wine, like, you're forgetting it. And I really thought I was losing my mind because I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I remember that right. Right. So I started recording that was how I validated to myself that this was happening. Yeah, there's like, they record maliciously. Yeah. No, I was recording literally to be like, was I that out of it? And I just don't remember. Because I ended up 3 months later, I ended up in a psychiatrist's office going like, my husband, who I trusted, telling me that I don't remember things right. Like, I literally thought I was losing my mind because I trusted, not realizing what was happening to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that fog that they put you in is very, very real and very crazy.
Did you do that to your wife?
What's that?
Did you do that to your wife?
Yeah, I did.
And what was the purpose of you doing that to her? Like, from your perspective, like
avoiding vulnerability, avoiding honesty, avoiding me being wrong.
Okay. Because I felt like that was what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
He never admitted it.
Right. Yeah.
I always wondered about that, and I'm just like, because it's almost like I could sense it, but I could never get an answer from him.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times like she's recorded me as far as like that whole thing. Like I have no clue. I don't know if she has or not, you know.
Right.
I know I've recorded her at least 3 times though.
Right. So Heather believes he was a sociopath.
Mm-hmm.
I trust Heather because she has more knowledge than I do on that.
Right.
And it was a little intense.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the user 584 says, so should you insist on recording from the beginning of the conversations, record whenever you can start to record. When you first feel, at least for me, when I first felt like, oh, here we go again, that's when I would hit record. Mm-hmm. I never initiated a conversation with him with the recording on, thinking that I needed to record. It was only when I felt like he's starting to blame shift, starting to like leave the room, deny accountability, mm-hmm. those things. That's when I started recording.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you tell the difference between narc and a sociopath? Oh my gosh, Heather, answer that one. Because I didn't know. I didn't even think he was a narcissist because the narcissist that I knew before was more of an overt narcissist. Right. When I found out about this, I knew that I was being verbally abused, emotionally abused. I knew that he was stonewalling me, mm-hmm. but I did not know that he was a narcissist until I came across a page on TikTok that was talking about covert narcissism. And that is where I was like, that's what's happening to me. Mm-hmm. So when I found out about covert narcissism, that made so much more sense. Yeah. But I had no idea until then. I denied it, even if my therapist was telling me, I think you might be a narcissist. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. So she says, so sociopaths covertly plan the abuse and get off on it. It's intentional and malicious. Yeah. A lot of the stuff from like narcissistic side is more like reactionary and like in their minds, like protection driven, you know, protecting like their image, their control, their vulnerability in one sense. And it's less a lot of times is intentional, and a lot of times it's less like malicious or like planned out for sure. What kind of narcissist do you identify as? Since you're self-aware. Probably more on the covert, vulnerable side. But like in like the workplace, I'd be more like grandiose and overt. Okay. So you can actually like toggle between the two. Yeah, it for me, I think I land more on the covert, vulnerable side because of the fact of like, you know, even in like large groups or stuff like that, like I might get to the place where I lead the group, or I might get to the place where I motivate the group without necessarily leading the group. So like a lot of times I would be like the instigator of stuff, but not the one that would get in trouble for it. You know what I mean? Okay, that makes sense. I feel like he was that way too with jobs. But like if it was something like maybe like my job and stuff like that, like yeah, I was like freaking awesome at it. I was like the best at it. You know, that kind of a thing was more in there because like when I was working for the company I was working for, like I knew pretty much all the answers, and like I have like the gift of technology. So like I touch technology and like magically heals itself. Like literally. So like it's just like that kind of a thing was like more like grandiose and overt like in the workplace. Right. I don't know what's going on in the kitchen. I have a roommate, so. Gotcha. You're good. Yeah. Let's see. So I really wanted to ask Brie about the parent stuff because she's super familiar with that.
Yeah.
And the more I start diving into this and the healing journey and working on the inner child, I'm like, Hutch, was one of my parents a narcissist? Like, I feel like if my mom was a narcissist, it was out of necessity.
Right.
Or abuse from my father.
Yeah. No, I would definitely recommend, like, you probably already follow Brie. So for everybody else, abuse is abuse. Like, if you guys don't follow her, follow her. She's really good. She's a lot of good info from like the narcissistic parent side. Another really good one on here is Catherine. I don't think she's on here right now, but Catherine Kleist, I want to say. I don't remember the last name. But she had a narcissistic dad. And she's got some really good info from the kid narcissism side.
That was something else I was going to say. I didn't even realize the similarities until after we were married. And I remember thinking, I married my dad, but I didn't understand why I was thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the delusions of grandeur with this cryptocurrency. He was going to get rich on cryptocurrency. Or doing something for Amazon. He was going to get rich there.
Okay.
He was recovering alcoholic, 10-year sobriety. So I didn't think that was an issue, but the traits were still there. So yeah, I remember my therapist when she was like, you have daddy issues. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I had to learn more about that too.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Ooh, Better Than Ever has a good question. Please explain why narcs don't feel ridiculous when they lie so obviously and they know you know. There was that, like, I remember that. He knew I knew.
Mm-hmm.
He knew I knew. And it even became more crazy.
Right. Yeah, sometimes the lies get even worse because, like, to admit that they lie means they have to be, like, honest, and that's really just, like, so against, like, their nature, so against, like, what they want to do. Another example that I have that I really feel like when I was talking to one person on a one-on-one, and we were talking about, like, his narcissist and, like, how she, like, lied about stuff that, like, the whole family knew about and the whole family had seen and experienced. And one of the things that we talked through when I was talking to him was we actually kind of, like, figured out a little bit, and that was her reality versus her fantasy, versus, like, the false reality that she built. And, like, really it made a lot of sense in my mind as I started getting into it. And it's the idea that the narcissist a lot of times, like, believes their own lies because a narcissist is trying to live truth in that reality. And then the thing you have to watch out for as a narcissist is just the jump from reality. So, like, in reality, like, hey, I'm loving to my wife, like, I'm committed, I'm in this relationship, it sucks, it's awful, I'm a victim. Let me jump to this reality, like, oh, like, I'm loving with this affair partner, like, this is the best thing ever, and that's just, like, the worst thing ever. But, like, you keep them separate as best you can so that you can tell the truth in each side. And so what I've seen a lot of times is you'll see someone that lies about something that the other person obviously knows about and, like, even calls them out on it, but they'll keep up with it just so they don't have to go back on their own word. But sometimes, like, those lies, like, bleed over. So, like, you'll have a lie that's true in this reality that bleeds over into the other reality that they know is false, and they just kind of, like, ignore it.
Right. So my question to you is, why would you tell somebody everything you love about them? Why would you tear everything about that you love about them apart? So he loved that it was, like, independent, strong, outspoken, blah, blah, blah. But when we got married, that was the stuff that he tore apart. So I lost my independence, right? Like, that ability to really spend time with friends and family was gone. I had a vacation planned with some girlfriends. One was a mutual.
Mm-hmm.
And he went from silent treatment for, like, a week to, like, oh, I love you. So I ended up not going on that trip, right? Because I was like, he's being nice to me. Why is it that they tear all those strong qualities apart?
I think there's an aspect of the challenge, and then once the challenge is over, there's not a challenge anymore.
I feel like it was the challenge too. It wasn't even about him feeling bad about himself. It was the freaking challenge.
Like that's the aspect of like, oh, like I love this about you, or, oh, this is awesome about you. But then once they have you, once they've broken you, then like that's not something they love anymore because it's not there.
Right. Rema Ham said Heather Coleman Voss, he wanted to hug me when I voiced frustrations and birthday rest in peace, Dad, not in a positive way. So the day that I left, he it like dawned like his light bulb. I was actually leaving. I got on the live a little earlier than I had anticipated. Well, I actually thought he was leaving, and then because I had been counting down to this, I'm leaving,
right?
And he was still there, so he started asking me all these questions, and then he asked me for a hug. And I was so glad that I was on the live, because if I had hugged him, I probably would have fallen apart. And with being on the live, I had strength enough to say, like, I don't want a hug from you.
Right.
Like, what is that about? I felt like that was him to, like, that last trauma bond. Do you know what I mean? That was my thought on it, is he's trying to trauma bond me again.
Yeah, I mean, it's that push and pull of like, there's like a big dissonance, and then there's trying to like build a connection, because connection. A lot of people with narcissistic relationships are like, oh, we had such a connection. Well, for the narcissist, it's not like, oh, we had such a connection. It's like, oh, look how much control I had. And like, really, in reality, like, connection for a narcissist a lot of times is control. Chaos is control. Like their lies are control. Like everything like that. So like when it comes down to it, like what they're doing is like, hey, if I can build a connection to this person who's empathetic and feels more emotions and understands their emotions better than I do, if I can get a connection to this person, I can control them.
Right. Oh, Kelly wants in. This is good. I messaged her. I was like, come in here. I need to get on this live. So,
Kelly, what's going on?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
I want to talk about the post-separation abuse. And I was terrified to say it before, but I'm feeling pretty confident today. And Kelly knows about it.
Okay.
It happened, and I made her hold my hand to open an email. So, yeah, he did where I was. He couldn't find me. He filed the false restraining order with the reactive abuse situations. I had attorneys, three attorneys, because tell me, just ignore it. Just ignore it. Don't go to court, because if he can't find you, he can't serve you, and the judge will figure out there's a reason he cannot find you. Kelly was like, don't do that, just go to court.
Well,
I love you, Kelly.
My thoughts were, it's never going to stop, and you might as well face it head on, you know, rather than it drag out. So that was my thought process.
Right.
I don't know what your thoughts are, Ben, but...
Well, yeah. Mentally, Lee just said, Ellie has been gaslighting me on TikTok since we became mutuals. Lee, I feel like you're, what is it, stonewalling me since we became mutuals.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like a big aspect of like him not being able to find you. Like that, I would definitely agree with that.
That's what I kept saying. I said, this has nothing to do with the restraining order. This is so he can control and figure out where I'm living. I went to the point where I put the forwarding address to Texas, where my daughter is living. Everything was dropped. I didn't share that on TikTok yet, but there are things that I share on TikTok because it was hilarious. Like, Kelly saw it. He was like, she weighs 204 pounds, because they asked you to give a description. One of the abusive situations was him forcing me to get on a scale to prove what I weighed. And that was the weight. And so the fact that he put that on the restraining order request proved that he did somewhat believe that, or at least he knew that that's what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I recall, most of that restraining order was projection. I mean, he was accusing you of the very things that he was doing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
What's going on with what's the status on that right now?
It's gone.
Oh, are you serious?
I did what the attorney said and I ignored it because I went, I don't know, what would you say, Kelly? 3 to 5 times to try and get a restraining order of my own. I waited too long. So anybody who is planning on getting out, go get a restraining order right away. Even if it protects you temporarily, just go do it. Because I kept telling everybody, Kelly told me to get one, Heather told me to get one, and I think even Lee told me to get one. And I was like, no, he doesn't know where I am. I'm fine. Because what I didn't want to do was make the situation worse.
Right.
So I didn't go get one. I should have. And so by the time that I would get one, they were like, you waited too long. When was the last physical abuse episode? It was like March and this was August. And they were like, it's too late.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. You know. Yeah. And I personally tried to get restraining order 2 times. It was denied. The first time I made the mistake of trying to tell the judge that he was a narcissist. I didn't realize you don't ever bring up narcissism in the courtroom. And then the second time, I tried to explain the emotional abuse, but they said basically, if he hasn't threatened to take your child away or has not physically abused you, then it is very rare that you're going to get a restraining order.
See, and that was what I was told.
In that category.
That's what I was told even before I went before a judge. Which is, here's the thing: when you go to leave, you're more likely to get a temporary one because you're leaving an abusive situation. Where if you wait, they're going to be like, why didn't you file it sooner? Now, I didn't file it sooner because when I left, I was so dissociated. Kelly saw it. She was like, you need to take time off work. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. But I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't. And I wish I had listened to everybody. And I say that in my videos nowadays. Like, if somebody's telling you to do something, it's because they know from experience. Like, take these. And I like tagged. I forgot to tell you. Sorry, but I tagged people earlier that had, whether they helped me directly or indirectly, they had helped me leave that relationship because they were sharing this. I don't remember if I found you before or after. I feel like I found you off. I had already left.
No. My daughter is yanking at me. Sorry. She's yanking at me. She's strong for a 2.5-year-old. She's really strong. I feel like I'm gonna like fly off the screen, but I'm sticking around. Stick around for a little bit. I've got a little bit of time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I feel like, Ben, I haven't talked to you. I'm losing my voice. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I haven't talked to you in a long time. Have we ever even done a live together?
I don't think so. I don't think I've been on yours or you've joined mine before. I don't think so.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I didn't officially say that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
My first live was with Kelly. Well, the first multiple live, it was like this with Kelly, and it was with a guy that was on here pretending to be a victim. And she's like, immediately she got off. And she sent me a message. She's like, he's a narcissist. Disassociate from him.
That's funny.
Yeah, and he was.
Yep.
I was right. I was right.
He was. He was really, she was right. She was right. He was the one who outed my TikTok to my ex.
But yeah. Kelly, how have you been?
I've been good. So this was a really intense week.
Mm-hmm.
I had court.
Okay, yeah.
And you know, prepping for court for me is really grounding myself and putting myself in an emotionally strong, stable position where I know I can go into the courtroom poised and confident and grounded.
Right.
And so I did a lot of preparation for that. And that's what I want to tell people. You can get to that point when you're in court if you practice, if you work at it. You actually, it takes work and effort to get to that point so that you are ready and confident in that courtroom. Where you're, it's not that you're dead, like emotionless dead, but you want to have your emotions in check. You know, that's what the judge wants to see. Wants to see you, he wants to see you acting like an adult, you know, like an adult would be. And so I went in there and I did that. One of the major topics that was discussed and determined is my ex requested that, or asked the judge if we could have an outside investigator come in, and the outside investigator is a psychologist. So this person will do psychological evaluations on both my ex and myself, and then they will assess the situation, including giving recommendations as to custody, like our custody situation.
Okay.
Basically, what he's trying to do is, essentially try to prove that I'm an unfit mother, and that I'm emotionally unstable. That's what the narcissist wants to do. I think it's going to bite him in the ass, but from what I hear, this is a really good psychologist. Hopefully but the only concern that I have is they've been in, the psychologist apparently has been in business for a very long time, like probably over 2 decades. Will that mean that they are on top of understanding narcissistic personality disorder? Will they know that? Is this something where they're familiar with the DSM and they know, right, what is going on with NPD? I kind of hope they do, because as this person gets to know me, they're going to understand that I've got a side hustle. I've got a side business. I'm a life and relationship coach, and I specialize in narcissistic abuse. And, I'm sure that information is going to come out. I will be curious to know their thoughts on this. But anyway, my point is the judge said yes to it. So we are moving forward with this. And if you didn't know, to hire a psychological evaluation, it's going to be between $8,000 and $10,000, which we are forced to split. So we tried to fight it. We tried to fight it and say, look, he ordered it. He should have to pay for it. He's the one that wanted it. Right. He should have to pay for it. But ultimately the judge, said, she's got a job. She's making money. She's going to have to pay for half of it. But it is, I'm okay. I'm confident with the psych eval. I just hate the fact that I have to spend his money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, absolutely. I do like our judge. He seems like a pretty chill guy. But this divorce is dragging on. There's nothing I can do to slow it down. It's just one thing after the other. And I just, unfortunately, don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is a marathon. People out there, if you're getting divorced from a narcissist, be prepared for a marathon. That's why I'm so glad that you got your annulment, Anna, because who knows how long he would have dragged your. Remember, Anna, I'm going to tell this real quickly.
Hold on for 1 second. The attorney said he was so distracted by trying to get a restraining order on me, he probably didn't respond to the actual annulment stuff, because
that's crazy.
That was his focus.
How long ago was the annulment?
December. It got approved in December. I don't remember. December 2nd, I think.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't remember how long ago it was, but I remember like watching that live that you did. And like I remember like messaging several people at the same time. I was like, check out the live right now, because like it's super exciting.
I was told by several attorneys it would never happen, and then I reached out to the attorney that helped me in my parental alienation case. From the kids. And I said, look, are you up for a challenge? I will do all the footwork, but I really feel like I deserve an annulment. I talked to Kelly about this. I talked to Heather about this. I talked to so many people about this. I never felt like I was really married, because the day we got married is the day everything changed. So I was like, I never felt like I was his actual wife. He didn't treat me like his wife ever. And I really want this annulment. And I remember, Kelly, I was going back and forth. Do I want to try this fight, or do I want to leave it alone and do the regular?
And I was like, I don't want him to have any of your 401k. I was like,
that's what I was saying. That was my fear. That was my fear. So we ended up going for the annulment, and I didn't think it was going to get approved, but I was willing to fight the fight. I was at that point. I was like, no, I will. If I have to go to a hearing, I will tell the judge why I feel like I deserve this. And if the judge says no, it just turns into a divorce. So I found an attorney that was willing to fight that fight with me. I consulted with her several times. She walked me through the processes, all the paperwork I had to fill out. And she said, if he doesn't respond, that's, the best case scenario. Well, I remember I texted him. Kelly was like, don't text him. I was like, I texted him and I just said, I went for the annulment information. They said, if you don't respond, it's the best case scenario. Like, the annulment will get approved. And so, or there's a better chance of the annulment being approved. And he didn't have much to say to that, except for in the temporary restraining order, he tried to say that the basis of my annulment was a lie. Because I based it on fraud. Initially, it was fraud. There was multiple reasons in California for it to fall under fraud, but it was fraud. It was not the person that I expected to be marrying. He made agreements to certain things that he didn't follow through on. Right. It fell under the category of fraud.
Yeah, it definitely did. There's a part of me that wishes I could have done that, but unfortunately, I think with a child, it makes it even more difficult.
Right.
I know. I even told Kelly, I was like, wait, you're not divorced yet? I don't know why I thought she was already divorced.
Right.
And it was just a custody thing.
Yeah.
I was
You
like,
guys,
it feels like it's been going on forever.
It's guess what? It's officially been done. Get this, the divorce has officially surpassed the length of the marriage. The marriage is 2 years.
Wow.
And we are officially, the divorce is longer.
Wow.
And I want to tell you another statistic, and that is, so I got married when I was 24 to my first husband, and we were together for almost 20 years. And then I got divorced from him. I was divorced for, get this, 17 days before I turned around and remarried the sociopath narcissist. So I have been married my entire adult life, and I'm sick of it. I want to be single so bad.
Because single life is so awesome right now.
I want to be single. Oh my God.
Kelly's living vicariously through me and my singledom.
Right.
I do all the time. I love your life.
Right? I mean, I wouldn't have been here without you though, because I almost thought about talking to him about staying, remember? She's like, don't do it.
I know. I definitely was your cheerleader when you needed a cheerleader. I was your mentor when you needed a mentor. I put my foot down several times when I thought you might be making a mistake.
Right.
Like, don't send that email. I was like, but I read it to her and I'm like, no, I need to send it. But it was a good thing I didn't send it because I didn't know at the time about that temporary restraining order he was trying to get. Yeah, she's like, don't send it. And if I had sent it, that would have made a line of communication. But it literally was about him and his kids contacting my son. It was just like, please don't contact my son. We want no contact with you. And she's like, don't send it. Just don't. So I'm glad I didn't. It all worked out. So if anybody needs a coach, like here's two right here. I think that's a great thing to have.
Thanks for the promo.
I posted it today. Like, even though like we've become friends and you're not really technically my coach, but you're offering coaching services. There were so many people that posted the comments in that one video that I made about being in my bed and not willing to tell him anything anymore because I couldn't trust him. I was like, there's coaches. Here's all the coaches that I know of because, man, when you can't trust them anymore and you're trying to make an exit plan,
right?
It's nice having somebody else who's been through it, who understands it, or even somebody like Ben, like you and Lee, who are on the opposite side, so you know what their intention is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that was nice having Lee tell me, no, that's just an act. Like his sobbing on the couch. I remember messaging Kelly. I'm like, dude, I think he's downstairs crying, and I want to go downstairs and like comfort him. And she's like, don't do it.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that? I should post those videos because it's been.
Are you kidding? The couch pout?
The couch pout.
It was the week before I left. I started moving some things out. He saw it. He did a couch pout. I remember hearing him downstairs thinking that he was punching the wall or something. Like, and hearing him crying, and it hurt me. It hurt me so bad. And I'm like, I remember messaging Kelly, like, why do I want to comfort the person that's hurting me? I want to go comfort him and tell him everything's going to be okay, but I know it's not. And she talked me out of it, which I'm glad. Because that kept me going to leaving the following week. Because right after that, when he realized that didn't work, then the smear campaign started. Right. He went on Facebook and this whole thing, and like, she won't leave. That was the Facebook post. She won't leave. I've asked her to leave. She won't leave. And I'm like, dude, I've been moving for a while. Right. So if he sends any flying monkeys to my page, good. Scroll all the way back to the bottom. Start at the bottom, work your way up. You'll see. I was planning on it for a long time before the divorce even came up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, so Ben, give me a quick update. How have you been doing?
Pretty good. It's been busy, hectic, but I think probably like the biggest news that's been like the most exciting is I talked to my boss yesterday, and we kind of solidified a date. So April 26th is my last day in a real job. And then we start going with Raw Motivations full time. So we go on vacation right then. So we actually had a vacation already planned. So it works out because I had vacation time in already. So come back. So we're talking like May 10th or so. My schedule starts opening up almost like full time for being able to do like one-on-ones and things like that. Because honestly, right now, that's been one of the biggest things is like right now I'm booked. Right now I'm booking like 3 weeks out. And like, that's just been insane. Like, I have not expected this. It's been a huge blessing and a huge opportunity just to work with a lot of people, and a lot of people that are starting to do like multiple packages that I meet with on like a weekly or a bi-weekly basis kind of a thing. And it's just been unreal. And we've seen a lot of big moves over the past, over this year, especially, but over the past like 5 months that were just kind of, we were talking, praying about it. And originally, like, Kayla and I were talking about October. That was going to be my 2-year mark with the company I'm with right now. And they were like June. And then we're like, okay, we just need to do it end of May. And then we got vacation coming up. And then we're like, boom. So April 26th, my last day, kind of like May 10th, we start opening it up like full time. So I'm super excited.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw Hearts with Jules came in here when I was going back through my saved videos. She's probably like 5th or 6th in line of the first saved video I had ever saved relating to what narcissistic abuse was.
Really?
There she is, yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So
Kelly,
cool.
I commented on one of your videos today, right? Where I was like, this is the first saved video I've had of yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
That's pretty cool.
I was like,
yeah, I love some of Hearts with Jules has some awesome like skits and all.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out for the people who are just finding out. I'm like, well, how did I start? Well, these were the first people that I saw on here. So that helped me go like, that's what's happening.
I know the first person I ever saw in anything Narc Talk was Lee, and that was because my wife showed me his video, and she was like, look at this guy. And I was like, okay, you know.
And that's what I tried to do. I tried to do that with my ex. Lee was not my first. He was probably my third person. But I literally took the phone and was showing my ex videos. I'm like, look, like, I was waiting for him to have that light bulb moment. Like, this is him. In the examples Lee was giving, no.
Right.
He would always say something condescending. Oh, you're listening to that guy again.
Right.
Yeah, I am.
Well, he wasn't my light bulb moment, but he was a part of some of the journey.
Yeah, definitely. Lee was one of my first as well. And I remember seeing one of his videos, and I literally said to myself, "I'm gonna be friends with that guy."
Right.
I'm gonna be, and I've actually done that too with a few other, especially like Narc Avengers. Same people, like whether it's Lisa, I was like, I'm gonna be friends with that person. Just the way it's gonna be. I'm gonna be friends with them, and we just made it happen. We just like gravitated towards one another. It's crazy how it works out.
That's what you got to do.
Parts with Joseph Lee was her first too. And here's the thing, like his examples, I was super triggered by watching his videos at first. But his examples were like spot on examples of stuff I was going through. So I thought, hey, if I just listen to this close enough to him across the table, on the couch, he can hear it. Maybe he'll have the same realization that I'm having. No. But, and I think, sorry, I just read Lee's comment. Seems I was a lot of people's first. Strange.
Don't let it go to your head, Lee. Don't let
Too
it go to
late.
your head.
Too late.
One of the things Lee says is don't try and tell them they're the narcissist, right? Don't show them the videos. Like, I didn't know that at the time, so I was sharing all of these things. I wish I hadn't, because I feel like that only gave him a little more ammo to kind of manipulate it.
Yeah.
Lee says it's too late. It's already gone to his head.
Yeah.
He knows it's already gone to his head.
Yeah. Too late.
But I'm advocating for those people who either cannot get therapy, but they want to get out, and they need a coach. Well, good. I listed like 15 people that I know of, and Ben, next time I'll add you in the next one, because you need that little bit of hope that it's okay to leave. Because for me, it was not okay to leave. Like, it was bad to abandon the marriage. I needed somebody to tell me, no, it's okay to leave.
Was that based on your upbringing or your religion, or like what was that underlying with?
It was a little bit of both. So religious, there was some religious stuff there. That was, I feel, the reason that we rushed into the marriage, because he wanted me to move in with him, but I couldn't move in with him unless we were married. Like, I literally didn't move in until like almost 3 weeks after we were married. The other was, I thought about that this morning. I didn't want to let everybody else down. I got married, made a big to-do about it. My family flew to Florida with me. I didn't want to let them down that I finally found something what I thought was solid and stable.
Right.
And I felt like if they knew, I would be letting them down. So that was the next part. Surprisingly enough, when I started actually sharing with those family and friends, they had been through it too. My sister couldn't watch my TikToks for a long time because she said it was triggering her to a relationship she had been in the past.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that happens with people that are stuck in those relationships, and they keep thinking that they have to stay in them because of obligations to other people or obligations to their religious beliefs or things like that. And that's really like a big like disservice that a lot of Christianity has done, like saying like you have to stay in a marriage, like you have to be committed to this person who's abusing you. And a lot of it is there's a big aspect in like mainstream Christianity that ignores it. A big aspect with Christianity that like justifies it in one sense of like, well, you're just supposed to, respect the other person, but it's not like they actually look on the other side of like, okay, but you're not supposed to like, be with someone who's like abusing you. And like, that's kind of like, there's a huge disconnect. I actually have I don't know what it's coming out in the next couple of days. I actually have a YouTube video coming out that's talking about like narcissism in church. And then I have another one coming out after that that's talking about like narcissistic pastors. So we'll see if I ruffle some feathers on that.
Do you follow Mendine.me? Do you follow Natalie?
Yeah. We've talked a couple of times.
Okay.
I've actually been interacting with her a little bit. I've been going back with her. I want her to see if she's available. I want her to see if she'd be willing to do a little bit of a course on marital coercion that I could actually put in the NARC app for people to learn about.
I can message her.
No, her and I have emailed before. Like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be really good because that underlying foundation is part of what kept me there.
So really good book. I'll recommend it.
Roller coaster.
Really good book. It's called When Narcissism Comes to Church. Like when I first got this, I was like, is this just gonna be like a Christian book or whatever? Like it's from a person with like a psychologist background that was in the church and abused. It's a really, really solid book, but that's where I pulled some of the data. That's where I pulled some of the data for like the YouTube videos that I have coming up about narcissism in the church, but then also like I'm wondering how many people I'm going to piss off, or like what's going to happen whenever I do like the video on the inner life of narcissistic pastor. Like some really like fired up stuff in here, and stuff that like I can identify with. I've seen it. I've been involved in the churches with the pastors where it's like all about them, you know. So it's a very good book.
Right. I got very lucky. Like after I left, I went to church, and it was in a session with just the women. And I remember saying, and I don't know why I felt compelled to say this, but I said it out loud. I was like, I just got to know out of an abusive relationship. He doesn't know where I am, because I didn't want anybody to share my information. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know where I am, et cetera, et cetera. This is what was happening. And I just kind of like verbal diarrheaed it out of my mouth. And afterwards, I had 3 older women come up to me and go, "Good for you, honey." Like one of them was like, "I did that too 20 years ago and I don't regret it a day since." And that was super validating, that you could still go to church and still express this to people and other people would understand.
Right. And that, I mean, even in my journey, that was part of the reason why it took me longer to actually get on this platform. You know, I originally started after going through some of the warrior stuff and started being like, hey, these are some of the lies that I've had in my life. This is me like starting to own up, be honest. Like this is me like acknowledging like narcissism, stuff like that. Like I started to post stuff on like my personal Instagram, my personal Facebook. And like I got shamed from other Christians. Like I got people that I went to college, like I went to Bible school with, that like contacted me and they were like, dude, like why are you putting this stuff up on social media? Like you've got a wife and a daughter to think about. Like you should not be putting this stuff out there for people to see. Right. And I was just like, no, like this is the reason why I want to put this out there, so that my daughter doesn't end up with someone like this. Like, you know, and it's just frustrating, like this skewed perspective, because a lot of people like start coming out of the woodwork of like, you know, wait a second, like you're a Christian, like hide your shit, like come on, like what are you doing? Like, and I was just like, this is like ridiculous.
But that's the problem, is hide it, keep it secret. And when you're in the abusive relationship, you're being forced to hide it and keep it secret. Like how long can you just keep your mouth shut that this is happening without support?
Right.
You know, by the time you open your mouth and you ask for support and for help, those people don't even believe you. Because you've been only sharing all the good stuff all along. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like it's very true. Like someone says, like, where's the support? Like there's a lot of times like very little support for like survivors. For me, when I was trying to acknowledge some of this stuff, like there was like zero support. And like it like pissed me off. Like, I mean, that's also probably part of the reason that like I kept seeking some change at some points. Like I started a group of like 10 guys back in college that I was like, hey, I need some help with being accountable just in my everyday life, like things that I'm struggling with. And out of those 10 guys, there was one person that kept in contact with me. That was my dad. 10 guys, none of them kept in contact. 8 years later after college, I looked back, I sent the same 10 guys plus 5 more, the same exact email that I originally sent them. And I was like, hey, not blaming anybody, but this is my story. I reached out and asked all these people for accountability. Now here's my story of losing my job, almost losing my marriage, 5 affairs later, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm asking for it again. But 3 months later, I deleted the group because nobody was answering. I had someone, here's the thing that pissed me off. I had someone who contacted me. That's like a deacon, that's a person who's like leading a Sunday school class. I had someone that contacted me in that group and said they were leaving the group because they felt pressured to share what God was doing in their life. At that point, I was like, screw you. Like, you know, if God isn't big enough for you to actually take 5 seconds out of your day and share something with another group of guys to help them, like find encouragement and stuff, then like, I don't need you in my life.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Better Than Ever has a great question for you. why wouldn't a Christian look at what you did as repentance? I actually, as soon as she said that, I'm like, yes, like what you're doing is, in a way, it's like a form of repentance, right? From the Christian perspective, at least, you're repenting for what you did. You're acknowledging what you did, and you're trying to help others. I feel like that question is a very good question.
It's a very good question, and I'll tell you this, probably one of the best books I've read on that, I would recommend to everybody. And what is it? Okay, yeah, I had to remember the name. One of the best books I read about it is called Unpunishable by Danny Silk. And the thing that answers that question of why wouldn't most Christians look at that as repentance, because most Christians want punishment, not discipline. And the difference is they're looking for punishment, which goes back to the idea of conformity versus actually disciplining someone and having them walk that back to actual repentance and change versus just conformity. A lot of Christians want conformity, so you fit in that box, so you look like a Christian, so you look happy, so you show up to church, interact with a lot of people, have a great time and interact with a lot of people, and then go home and abuse your kids. Like, that's what a lot of Christianity is. It's just fakeness in front of everything, where you come together and like, this is how you're supposed to act. Don't bring like when you think about it, like a lot of churches out there are like, hey, let's have a good time, let's interact, let's love Jesus, all this kind of stuff, but don't bring your shit to church. Like, don't bring like your real crappy self to church, because like that's really not acceptable of what we want to have. And that's not true Christianity. That's not what Christ was about.
No, that's not true. No. That exactly. It's not.
No,
because Christ is about bringing your shit.
Exactly.
he put himself in with the people who were bringing their shit. So
I'm gonna recommend that for my church. New logo. Bring your shit.
I agree. Hold on. Do you still consider yourself a Christian? An active Christian?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I feel like just putting it out there, because what happened after I left, so I had a real hard time getting some individuals from the church to help me leave.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, this is not an issue in that church. It's a packing party. They will come and they will help you move. But I got some responses like, well, we want to talk to your husband first. We want to make sure it's okay with him. Mm-hmm. Like, why? Like, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to fly. And I felt I didn't feel rejected, but misunderstood. Mm-hmm. And so they were afraid to come help because of the level of fear that something could happen. And they wanted to bring their spouses with them, which I get. Right. But I was like, the more people that I have here, the more likely something is to happen. I would rather just a couple people come help me pack, and nobody's going to know. It's just going to look like some of my female friends. He's not going to question it. Right. After I left, maybe like a week or two after I left, one of the leaders of the church called me and says, can you send me a list? Do you have any information on how somebody could get out of this situation? Because somebody else has contacted me. They're in a very similar situation and they need resources. And I was like, you know what? I have a spreadsheet. And I sent it to her. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, it wasn't for nothing. Right. It wasn't for nothing. Even though they didn't help me, it wasn't for nothing, because now they know who they can contact, and I can send this list of resources that I have for the area. Yeah, for sure. So, and that's the only reason I keep sharing my story, is I don't want anybody to feel alone. I felt so alone. I'm not a coach, but if you need a coach, I will point you in the direction of like 15 other coaches. You can figure out which one's best for you. Mm-hmm. They're all a little different. I call Kelly my tough love coach. She's like, really, tough love? I'm like, yeah, you told me to. I was like, fuck him, get your ass out of there. She was like, but I needed that. I needed that in that last step to get out of there. I needed somebody who was going to be like, get the fuck out of there. And that's what she was.
It comes from a very kind place, I promise you. Right. It comes from a very compassionate place.
Right. It was. Okay, I'm going to go.
It was what you needed at the moment. That's all.
It is what I needed at the moment. And every step of this process, I had what I needed at the moment. So whether that was Lee, that was Callie, that was Allie, Ben, after I left, like having you just come out and say, hey, I can go get therapy, made me realize, fuck, he could have done it too, but he didn't. So, I'd rather deal with somebody who's willing to go get therapy than somebody who thinks that therapy is not for them because there's nothing wrong with them.
Right.
Or they need goat therapy. My roommate just messaged goat therapy. He's like, I don't need your therapist. I have goats.
So listen, I have to say, I would be remiss if we did not mention our upcoming webinar on April 6th.
Yes.
Lisa Sunny, also known as Stronger Than Before, has put together an incredible set of panelists for a webinar that is called How to Recognize and Overcome Narcissistic Abuse. And Ben and I are on the panel, as well as mental illness. Lee is on the panel. Then we also have two therapists. We have Dr. Carrie Kerr-McAvoy
She's amazing.
and Manjeet Ruprai. And it is going to be an incredible time, Ben, isn't it?
Yes, I'm super excited about it. So you can grab a link in like either one of our bios, and you can get tickets for it as well.
Yeah. And if you guys still need a moderator, let me know. I'll make myself available.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I'm gonna go because I'm gonna go get some pizza. Ben, it was so good to see you. You actually look really good. You look like you're doing like 1,000 times better than you were just a couple months ago.
Well, hopefully in another month and a half, we'll be even farther down the road. So I'm super excited to see where we're going.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you
for
Appreciate it.
helping others. That's what I tell Lee. Like, it's good to spread goodness than evil. So.
Right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, guys.
Okay, see you later. And Ben, I'm gonna get going because my daughter needs to go to bed. She's super late getting to bed, so I gotta go.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
But hey, let's do this again, though. I'd really love to do.
Absolutely. I want to start
live.
transitioning. I want to start transitioning some over to YouTube because with the Streamlabs, that's what Lee and I have been using. You can actually like click on the comments and it comes underneath the screen, and you and I can be like side by side and like kind of go through them a little bit easier where we can all see the comments at the same time. So like, yeah, definitely like hit me up and let's plan on doing that. And I can send you a link and we can like, if you've seen my live with Lee on like Wednesday or like 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, like that kind of thing, like how it looks really nice.
Okay, no, I love that. Absolutely, that sounds great. And
Awesome.
also, I just remembered that I have to mention, guys, I do have a support group called Narcissistic Abuse Survivors, also known as NAS. This Sunday is our March meeting. It's at 7 p.m. You can get tickets, right through my bio or at my website, Kelly Koalik Coaching. Mm-hmm. But we have an amazing guest speaker. We have Trey De La Torre, and he's going to be talking all about self-love and self-care. So you definitely don't want to miss it. That is this Sunday, support group this Sunday. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure. Definitely check that out. Go to her page, check that out, because it'll be a great thing for you guys to be able to attend for sure. Well, we always talk about, the fact that going through narcissistic abuse and a trauma bond is very isolating. Mm-hmm. And there's, a trauma bond is a lot about obsession and addiction as well. Right. And you need community. You can't be isolated to go through a situation like that. You need community. You need fellowship. You need other people that can share, that can empower you, that you can share and swap stories with. Mm-hmm. And this support group is an awesome platform to be able to do that. So it is by Zoom, if I didn't mention that. So you get to actually see people, talk to people if you want to talk. Right. Otherwise, you can sit and listen and just take it all in. But it's an awesome platform, guys. You don't want to miss it. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for jumping on. I appreciate it. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Great to see you.
Have a wonderful evening. Sorry I didn't say hi to Unity Sage. She's one of my faves. Okay, have a wonderful night. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Yeah, I would mention with that as well, like with she's got her support group, but like you're looking for like-minded people, like you're looking for people who are dealing with the same stuff. That's one of the reasons why I created the NARC app, and we've got I think it's over like 1,400 people that have it right now. But the NARC app, NARC, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community, has been a really awesome way for you to get plugged in with other survivors. Other ways that you can actually get in there, track your no contact, track your truth journal, start learning more about narcissism. We've got more courses that are coming out this month about different things. The one I'm working on currently right now is gaslighting, of getting that to you guys so you can do that in almost like a course format. You can do like bite-sized chunks, complete them, go on to the next day. And there's even different sections on there where you can have like different exercises and stuff that you can interact with. So there's a lot of stuff that is being worked on, a lot of stuff that's coming even more once I get out of my current job, so I can do this stuff like full time, because I want to be able to provide that. The webinar is super exciting. I do have coming up, the next one that I have is April 9th, I believe, and that's a trauma bond workshop. I think right now there's 3 spots left. And basically that's typically like a 2-hour event over Zoom, where you go through with yourself and like several other survivors or several other people who are like in it, where we go through and we talk about the trauma bond, what it is, work on like defining like the feelings, the emotions, the facts, like going through the story and try to rework and rewire your mind to be able to get out of that state where you're hoping, where you're wondering about changing, all this type of stuff. That's in my link in my bio. If you go to my website, rawmotivations.com, you can click there to be able to schedule one-on-ones, to be able to do coaching packages, to be able to do the trauma bond stuff as well. Like that all has been like really helpful, and really excited to see that help for a lot of people. So yes, answer a couple of questions. So you can see the webinar afterwards if you can't attend. So what it is you purchase a ticket. It's like $20 for the 2-hour event or whatever. You purchase a ticket and you can attend it. If you don't attend it, you're still on the email list. So you get an email like within 24 hours later that gives you the screen recording of the entire webinar. So it's a great way to be able to go back and watch it at your own leisure. So if you can't attend the event, like still go and grab tickets, because it's going to be really awesome. Like she went through and she told like all the people that's going to be on it, like there's 6 of us on it, and like we're super excited. So you can go to my link in the bio. You can click the link right there and grab tickets. If you're on YouTube, you can go to my Beacons page. If you're on Instagram, you can hit the link in the bio there as well. Or like there's probably like a story that I have that you can click on the link there. But we're super excited. It's identifying and overcoming narcissistic abuse. So we're definitely like really excited about that. Wish you could do more lives, even just one more. I know. So right now, just so everybody knows, like the plan is every Wednesday. I'm trying to think if there's anything coming up. Yeah, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're starting to go live. Myself and Lee, Mental Healness, we're starting to go live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. It'll be streaming to YouTube and also Facebook as well. So if you want to check that out, follow us on YouTube, because that's one area that we're actively answering people's questions. You put a question in and it pops up on the screen. You're able to click on it, all this type of stuff, so you can actually see it. But we're starting to do that every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Would love to have you join there. I'm here every Thursday, so typically like 9 o'clock to 11, or give or take a little bit. I'm here every Thursday night on this platform. Hopefully in 2 months. Hopefully in 2 months, we're going to start having more lives, maybe some throughout the day. I'm thinking about adding Tuesday night. Once I get out of my current job and I start doing Raw Motivations like full time, we'll start doing the Tuesday night as well. But just want to be able to add other times too, that we can do lives, interact with different people, and try to be able to explain. And, for me, it's trying to find like different times to be able to fit these in, just with a crazy schedule right now. So right now I work full time, and then I also do Raw Motivations, and it's very taxing and very crazy, which is why I'm so excited to be able to transition out. But right now, like my average, just in 2022, my average is probably about like 18 appointments a week on top of full-time job, full-time life at home, trying to do content creation. So I'm like super excited to finally get that transition out and be able to work with everybody more, which is super exciting. But yeah, another plug for it, because a couple people have asked several times that my wife is starting to do some one-on-ones. She doesn't have a big availability, but she's starting to open up some of her availabilities to actually interact with people, especially to give them some of the tools and some of the talk throughs about what's been helpful and influential on her healing. She's not on here to tell people to stay with their narcissist. She's not on here to say like, oh, like this is what you should do to keep them or make them change. So like, don't worry about asking her about that, because like it's not what she did to make me change. It's what I sought out, and it has to come from the narcissist. But all that being said, like my wife has started opening up her availability. You can go on to the website, rawmotivations.com. There should be a link on there as well. If you're familiar with Calendly at all, her handle is calendly.com, and then it's chats with Kayla. So that's kind of what she's been starting to put out there. She's had a couple of really good ones with a couple of people, just trying to help them, with their healing process and help them grow in those areas. So super excited about that. We're kind of both starting to partner together to try to work to help impact as many people. This is perfect time for daytime viewing in Australia. That's awesome. I just talked to someone in Australia like 2 days ago on a one-on-one. It was really cool. I had someone contact me the other day. They were like, I was looking at your Calendly and I don't understand why you have a one-on-one at 1 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, where are you coming from? And they were like, Honolulu. And I was like, that's why. That's my 5 a.m. appointment. And I was like, here's a couple other times it might be a little bit later for you, because it's funny. I was super excited. I got switched over to Calendly recently because I was having so many issues with people that I was doing one-on-ones with like across the globe, which has been like a really unique experience, but they're having trouble with my old system, like figuring out like time zones and stuff like that. So we finally got stuff switched around, which has been really cool and helpful. But anyways, awesome. Y'all have been awesome, like usual. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate it. So thank you guys on all platforms, since we're streaming to about 4 tonight, but thank you guys so much. So really excited to be on here. Wait, you're trying to get? Oh, we got too far to get to 20K likes on TikTok. But thank you though, I appreciate it. Keep tapping. Yeah, but awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Really do. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. So, if you guys are interested in doing a one-on-one, or if you want to talk to me, ask me some questions one-on-one, then go to my website, rawmotivations.com. Would love to have you interact on there. If you're on TikTok, please switch over sometime to YouTube and watch some of those longer videos. So I'm trying to build up the YouTube platform just to be able to encourage people, just try to get a lot more awareness out there. I'm able to do a lot longer videos. A lot of the content that gets talked about in the lives are, expounded upon there. There's more in-depth stuff. So really trying to help provide a lot of support and a lot of information to a lot of people. So check out those longer videos. There's like a 10-minute video that comes out every day. So do I have a video on cognitive dissonance? I don't. That's a good one. I need to write that down. I'll add that to my list of things, because that's definitely like a really big one, really good one. So I know Carrie McAvoy was working on some work with that. I don't know if she has videos up on her page, but I do know that she was working on that. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one thing I want to bring to the app, is actually the cognitive dissonance. But yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I really do appreciate everybody being here. So if I don't see you next, I'll see you back on next Thursday, or tune in on YouTube. Go to Raw Motivations YouTube this coming Wednesday, and you'll see myself and Lee. So we'll be super excited to go live again and talk to you on YouTube, answering a lot of questions on there. So thank you all so much. Really do appreciate it. Y'all have a great night.